Papa G, and I'm going to teach a class on my second to the last book, Casting Love Spells, which is not just cover all love and light. It's love spells, breakup, ethics, lack of ethics. One thing I found was interesting. Whenever I write a book, I like to go through and look through how is it presented historically, and how is it presented in pop culture. And in pop culture, I found there were so many things that showed love spells, from Bewitched to old stories, Tristan and Isolde. There were episodes of I Dream of Jeannie with love spells, and The Witches of Eastwick, if you remember that movie. A good example in The Witches of Eastwick is how Michelle Pfeiffer, Cher, and Susan Sarandon were sitting down, without their knowing, conjuring up the perfect man, and they were describing him. But the thing is, they focused on surface things, all the way down to the size of his penis they all wanted. But these were surface things, and they didn't go deep enough to make sure he was a good person. Make sure it was someone who was right for them. So, and then if anyone who's seen the movie knows, trouble ensues. So, should you cast a love spell? Has anyone ever cast a love spell before? Did it work? No? Should you cast a love spell? From what I've seen, most of the time it will not work in the long run if maybe the two of you were not supposed to be together to begin with. It may be on the short term that it works, but in the long run, if the two of you are not meant to sync together, it's just like, it's almost more like a booty call spell, because it's not going to last very long.
And do you really need a spell for one of those?
There is. The Kiss Me Quick oil. Which, I thought it sounded prettier than our naming it booty call oil.
Do you have a lesson learned love spell? When two people do want to try, or one of the people want to try to get together, but you think it may be a lesson and not a blessing for the one requesting?
Well, so that's not a bad thing.
No, I know.
But a lot of people don't learn. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't learn from those lessons. They'll just repeat it the next time, and then the next time, and they've wasted all.
The candle that makes them.
People think that you're fooling people think you're fooling with people's willpower when it comes to love spells. Really, magic only works that way in the movies. You can't force someone to love you. You can maybe make yourself more appealing to them. I always tell people, when you're dealing with a love spell, especially because what I see all the time is someone wanting someone else's man. It's like, aren't there other ones? You got to have that one.
All the men in the world. Someone else.
But they skip a step, and they don't seem to remember that you're supposed to make yourself the better choice. If you want them to pick you over the other person, most of what works in a love spell, the main ingredient is your behavior. Your behavior is the main ingredient. Because there was someone we had, she better not be in here, a couple of years ago who did, this is my favorite story about love spells. She would perform all these love spells on this guy, and she would come in and have us read do divination in the wax and the candles that she burned, and she would do this like weekly. And then one day she came in, and it was like Valentine's Day, and she was just pissed off because the guy he was with another girl, living with her. She's talking about, she posted all this stuff on Facebook. She's waiting for him to come home. She's got a new lingerie. She's got candles burning, massage oils laid out. She's cooked his favorite dinner. So I called him up at work and told him I was sick of this shit. He needed to get his ass back home with me where he belonged, blah, 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 blah. And I told her, I said, okay, on one hand, Here's the woman in the new lingerie, ready with the massage oil and cooking your favorite dinner, and then I have you calling me at work bitching at me. I said, I ain't picking you. So that's the most important ingredient. So the thing is, our love spell's ethical. Ethics can be subjective. It depends on your upbringing, what you consider moralistic. I try to tell people, if you were to cast a spell to get someone else's man or husband or whatever, you come in here and you buy the black back-to-back candles, you anoint them with breakup oil, or you light the breakup candle with both of their pictures underneath it. You've anointed it with the right oils, you've got the other woman's picture, and you've burned it and spread the ashes on the candle, etc., etc., etc. Let's say in a couple of months you have him. He's yours now. What's to prevent her from coming in and saying, do you have a back-to-back candle? Do you have the breakup oil? The main thing in situations like that is, I say it's okay if he was yours first and she took him away, then yeah, it's fine to do love magic. See if you can get him back. Maybe he made a bad choice and is too pig-headed to admit it. But after about 3 months, if it's still not working, look for a little sign. Does he call you? Did he text you? After about 6 months, I would say that would be what's called a cutoff point, where you have to, for your own peace of mind, your own future happiness, you have to say, I'm going to do this work on this person, and on this date, if he doesn't come back, or she doesn't come back, or we're not together, I'm going to say, okay, the universe doesn't want it to happen. I'm done. Most people don't do that. I've had people who say it's been 7 years.
Oh my God.
I'm like, you're, and I just have to be honest with them and say, well, you're wasting your life. It's been 7 years. Leave him alone. There are people who will say, he blocked me on Facebook. He has a restraining order against me. And I'm like,
pretty good indication.
Yeah, it's a pretty good indication that it's like he's told you no.
Right, he's done.
What? Let's do some work on you, self-love on you, to figure out why you're just not getting it. Points. Love versus lust. There's a difference. Sometimes you're swept up in the emotions of what this relationship would be like without even looking at it in a deeper level. Like, what is he may be hot. He may drive a nice car. Is he a nice person? How does he treat animals? And they don't look at that stuff because it's all the surface of the lust. So you have to be able to look behind that and look at someone on a psychological level. And if you can do that too, it's like Tish was talking about in an earlier class. It's planning out an itinerary for a spell. Not just lighting a red candle and the two of your pictures underneath it. It is, I want this to happen, and this to happen. And then look at, what are your obstacles? I need to remove this and this before this can happen. So it's almost like making a project plan for a spell. And those have a greater chance of success. For lust, we have penis and vagina candles, which are vulva candles. Those are mainly used for lust. I'll tell you what else they're used for. But some people would actually perform sexual acts with the candles to get their personal concerns on them. Roy talked a little bit about personal concerns, hair and fingernails. Personal concerns are also semen, vaginal fluid, which is pheromones. You anoint the candle with it. You don't have to with yourself, but some people will do the action of masturbating the candle as a spell, thinking of the other person to bring them towards them. Now, the other thing, when he's done you wrong, you can take that same penis candle. That's at the end. roll it in hot peppers,
Oh.
put pins in it. Some people will do it to bind someone to them, where it's like, you will only be attracted to me. So there's a little bit of love in that spell, and there's a little bit of lust, and there's a little bit of controlling. This is for marriage and fidelity. It is a dirt dauber spell. So it's an old spell from Savannah, Georgia. You take an entire dirt dauber's nest, an abandoned one, and yeah, don't get stung. And you drop it into a full glass of water, and you put a saucer on top of the glass. And on the top of the saucer, place your lover's photograph. Let it sit for 15 minutes. Take a drink of the water, and then it makes your lover want to stay home only with you. Because dirt daubers, what do? They set up shop, usually near doorways, near the home. So it's like getting someone to stay at home. Another old spell was to make sure their shoes are always facing the inside of the house. If you want them to stay at home, when they come home at night, make sure their shoes face in the house, not pointing out the front door. A further expansion of that, someone would actually take, a woman used to take a man's pair of shoes, and she would take them and walk through the house with them, into the front door and out the back door, and then around, into the front door and out the back door, into the front door and out the back door, and then put them under the bed with the toes pointing underneath the bed to get him to stay and only be in her bed. Another one was to put brooms and put them in the bed for the day, like when he's at work or something, to represent the two of you, and you would actually pray over them. It's like, these are supposed to be the two people, because think of African traditions where you would jump the broom to marry. So it's something to keep two people together. Roy covered honey jars for money and love, and a lot of those things are used for love magic, to sweeten someone to you, because you can use honey, sorghum, Karo syrup, sugar. There was someone who came to me whose husband was he wasn't verbally abusive, but he was on the border of it. He was always snippy and in a bad mood. And I asked her, I said, well, does he drink coffee in the morning? Yes. Does he put sugar in it? Yes. So I had her make a petition. She wrote it out with both of their names about it. It was about changing his behavior, that he would return a little bit more the way he used to be. Whatever was bothering him would resolve itself. And his words would be sweeter to her. And I told her to put it down in a container of sugar and let it sit for a couple of weeks. And then start to feed the sugar bowl with that sugar. And she said that after about a week, his mannerisms began to change, and the way that he spoke to her and everything, it became sweeter. There was, I think it was in Japan, a photographer took several jugs of water. It was either jugs or big glass containers or something. Do you know this story? Where they wrote different words on it. First, they photographed the water on a molecular level, and it was all the same. And then they put different words on different containers: love, compassion, hate, rape, and then they re-photographed them after they had sat there for a while. And all the ones with positive and loving things had beautiful snowflake patterns, and the ones with, we'll say, bad words had ugly, jagged patterns on yeah. So, I mean, that is a good example of how using a petition, especially if it was something like that in the sugar, to change its thing, and then someone ingests it and takes it all through their system, can alter something. So, it's like spell work to me.
So if they don't put sugar in their coffee, do you put your petition in their coffee? In their beans and in their...
You could do it in food. You can start to put it in food. So, you could even use it, even if it's just a tiny bit of sugar in everything that was cooked. A little pinch, as long as it got in there. And it won't bother you to eat it either. Because he's your target, or she's your target, whoever. Yeah.
So if you're in a healthy relationship, like a really good one, and there's not really anything that you want to fix, is it a bad idea to do like a honey jar that we learned earlier, just to keep it at a steady, like?
Well, especially if you're in a good, and you can mutually agree to do one, to keep it that way. Some people do that. Will do love spells together to keep marriage together, or maybe some people are having problems, and that's their marriage counseling, is doing a love spell together. Yeah, if something is good, it's all going good, and there's really no reason to, then I wouldn't do something without someone's consent, because to me that's just looking for trouble. It's almost like, hey, I know this is going to screw up, so I'm doing this work, and therefore you make it screw up. I covered that in the book I did, Hex Appeal, where a lot of time people think they have a curse on them. And most of the time it's self-induced. It's all based on these choices that they've made. They don't have a hex on them. Like Tish even covered, and you ask them, who would want to put a hex on you? Well, I don't know. Then you don't have one. You don't even think somebody would want to do that to you. And most of the time it is a series of looking for trouble, and therefore you find it. Or always having a bad attitude, or being a Karen. Most things are self-induced that we could remove with behavioral issues. I know this sounds more like a psychology lecture than a spell casting. Except most of the time, when like a spell, you think something's been done to you, or you want to do spell work on someone else. If you know a little bit about psychology, it can be quite helpful in doing a spell. But that's the part people forget sometimes. You can do a breakup, but they forget to add the part, oh, I want these two to break up, and I want him to come to me. Because they'll do all this breakup work, and he goes to someone else. I'm like, shit, I didn't plan this out.
What are some good spells for like attracting love from single people?
Attracting the right person to you, to me, is the best type of love spell. Because why wouldn't you want that? Roy and I each had done a love spell to attract the right person to us.
Both have rings on.
Yeah.
It must have worked.
Yeah, it must have worked 20 years ago. But we didn't know that at the time. But at each time, we had both done a spell to bring the right person to me.
See, I've been wanting to do like a soulmate spell.
It was sort of.
Just bring.
And that's however you identify it. Today we hear. Yeah, we meant a Yahoo group. A gay pagan Yahoo group. And I tell people to do this all the time in my readings. When they're reading about love work, why isn't it working? Why isn't it coming back? Like, take a period of time to examine yourself. Become the best version of yourself so that you vibrationally attract someone who is more suited to you. Some people are like, why do I keep falling in love with these losers? Because you go out and pick the loser. Right. So take a period of time, which is what I did. I took a year and said, what do I want? What am I interested in? People don't realize they come to me for readings most of the time I tell people off in a reading. I just tell people how it is. I mean, they call me for a reading. I said, why isn't he working? I said, because you're an idiot. Why are you following with this guy for 9 years? I'm with this guy that I went to high school with, and, your 30-year reunion was 2 weeks ago. What do you mean this guy you went to high school with? This guy that is now married and has grown children, and now you decide you want him back? Too much time has passed. What the hell are you talking about? That's an important factor too in doing love work. If someone leaves, Timing is the most important thing. Someone will come like a year later. I want them back. I'm like, you should have started work the minute they walked out the door. Because I said, did they leave 7 minutes ago, 7 days ago, 7 months ago, or 7 years ago? Because as time goes on, the gap widens. All of our choices that we make, the different people that we meet, it's less likely to work. So get them as soon as they go out the door. There was a client who wanted, is everyone familiar with foot track magic? That comes from African practice of using the places someone has walked, collecting their dirt, which is their footprints, and using it magically. Also, it can be to sprinkle ingredients in someone's path so that they walk through it. And sometimes it's hard to collect. And I told this woman, she said, I don't have any of his personal concerns. I don't have any letters or anything he gave me, but I want to do something that connects us. What can I use? And I said, well, when was the last time he was there? And she said, 2 days ago. I said, has it rained since then? No. I said, go out and, I said, well, did he come in the front door? Yes. I said, go out and sweep the porch.
No, yeah.
Gather up whatever dirt is on the porch, gather it up in a dustpan, put it in a bag, and then use it to dress your candles, because you have his footprints. Just like some people use track magic for hot footing someone. If you've ever heard of hot footing, that is to spiritually poison someone through the feet, like you mentioned, to get them to go away. You can do the same thing for love. Grind up rose petals into a fine powder and like a coffee grinder. Mix it with, and you're praying over this stuff as you do it. You can even lay them out into a bowl and begin to write your names into the dust. Mix it with some local dirt and sprinkle it with a walk through it, with the intention of when you walk through this, I sort of ensnare you romantically. You were going to ask a question before.
Well, now I have two questions.
Yeah.
Well, one, I was just curious about self-love and like any kind of practices for just cultivating a good relationship with yourself.
I do cover that in the book too, that self-love is an important thing. Like I was talking about working on yourself to vibrationally attract the right person to you. Any sort of love spell you can turn into one with just a matter of changing the wording for yourself. Add with it some confidence work, love, confidence, forgiveness. That reminds me of something I think is important too, is when two people are trying to get back together, when you want two people to get back together, is a lot of people will do all this love work to bring someone back to them, but they never examine what broke them up in the first place. So they're just doomed to repeat whatever happened because you're bringing them back in the exact same state in which the two of you parted. Has that person changed at all? Are they the exact same person? Sometimes they have, and sometimes they're ready to build something more long-lasting. But most of the time what happens is we don't look at what part did I play in them. They didn't just all of a sudden leave. I played a part in it too. And then they don't correct that.
I got a question.
Yeah.
How does one correct that then? Through
in you or through the other person?
within yourself, like within myself.
By being totally honest with yourself. I mean, that is like the most important thing. Is like you have to sit. You can even do a pro and a con list of what part did I play in this? What things could I have done better? Did I always speak kind words? Did I support them in the things they wanted to do? Did I try to suppress them in any way? Like, make it where they could never go out alone with their friends. They always had to stay right there with you because of maybe your own insecurity about, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just like being totally honest with yourself and Sort of like you could always make a list of what you wanted in a person and how you want them to treat you, and then flip it and say, did I do all those things?
Would you say that's also an example? Is that like a self healing type of?
I think it could be self-healing. I think it's also an evolving. Because even if the two of you aren't right together, you'll be a more polished version of yourself for the next one that's the right one.
So could that be a love spell in itself then?
Yeah.
That type of improvement?
A self-love spell. Finding your own flaws and healing them, repairing them, completely busting them down, destroying them, building them back up. Sometimes that's needed. Dynamite. What were you?
So your suggestion of course, taking the time to work through your own stuff so you can be the best version of you. While during that period, should you be doing any attraction work during that period?
Yeah, you can do it. I would do it more not towards a specific person, but towards bring the right one to me in general, except also who wants this, and this, which are the things that you want. Because some people just keep attracting, like the biggest thing, you see it in movies all the time. Why do I keep attracting bad boys? Because that's what excites you, and you like the drama. That should be the first question. Do you have a wife?
I mean, it's got the
You're like, I haven't even told you my name yet. Why are you asking me?
like you need to know all of your personal information, your birthday, your birth time, all of these things before I can give you.
Don't need a DNA swab.
Yeah. Background check.
Credit report.
Yeah, that can be important too.
Actually, on that topic, what about when you are in the beginning stages of getting to know someone and you want good communication and you want to talk about your values?
Some communication spells that you can do, if they're coming over to your house or something, is to get a blue bowl. You can fill it with like sand or whatever, but make sure it's blue, which is the color of the throat chakra, to open up communication. You can burn incense in the bowl of sand. That's what you're supposed to, which is an element of air, not only fire, but air, because the smoke carrying through it. And you're praying over this thing too. You're actually blessing the bowl. This is to open up communication. And the incense is supposed to, as they breathe it in, it actually opens up the throat. And you can put certain essential oils that have a blue quality around the room. Blue chamomile. Eucalyptus isn't really blue, but it has this scent that makes you think of blue. Wear blue. I know it sounds strange, but it actually works. But that little bowl is actually a spell bowl.
In terms of communication, I think something that a lot of people overlook is make sure you understand how they give love and they receive love.
Mm-hmm.
Because you could be doing all this stuff because you love them, but if that's not how they receive love, then it's a moot point. Like, I could give you a million gifts, but if gift giving isn't how you receive love, then none of that means anything.
And it can be too, where it's something even more at a more simplistic level is where one might perceive sex as love, where the other one perceives close contact with love. Not necessarily sex, but it could be holding hands, patting them on the butt as they walk by, or something like that. And you have to recognize that person, that's how they perceive it. Whether it's sexual or something, because it could be like, it could be. All of us have these different things in our past that are triggers of making you feel unwanted, unloved, and you should look at the other person too and see maybe they have triggers they haven't shared with you. So it's not always personal. Sometimes it's their personal. I think this is welcome to Psychology 101.
I got another.
Now on to the stuff.
Yeah.
I got another question. Would you say that love and lust are like kind of like
They go well together.
but would you say like as far as like vibrational frequency wise, would one be high in love when performing those types of spells, like lust spell versus love, or would love be a higher frequency than
Well,
lust?
I think, lust, I would think of it more of this way, as lust is more of a primal frequency, and love would be more of a, it's almost like if you move through the chakra system. Your base chakra is the energy in which you get up in the morning, where you put your feet on the ground. Next is the um, sacral chakra, which is sexuality and creativity, and also where your reproductive organs are. So that's a very primal. Here, when you deal with the lower chakras, you're dealing with a very primal energy, and as you move upward, like the heart chakra is where we process emotions, love. So to me, it is going upward. There's nothing wrong with a little bit of base energy between two people. But can it transition into the other effectively or be balanced between the two? That's why I tell people to use pink candles for love and red ones for lust. Because there's a difference. There's a difference thing you're asking for. And maybe you want both. So you might take a pink candle, start burning a red one, and drip the red all over the pink. And then you have both. Which I often do with the skull candle. A lot of people order skull candles from me. And then I will drip red wax over the skull candle, which skull candles are meant to influence someone's thoughts. It doesn't have to be too baneful or controlling. You can just move, think of me, think of me, think of me. I did want to show you how to use a doll baby. And these are ones I make. They're a little bit different than normal voodoo dolls in that there's nothing inside it. I mean, you can't put something inside it. But what I was going to say with these are actually more for anointing. So you would anoint a doll baby. I've got a sheet for you that explains 2 ways to use them, one for love and one for lust. Love, you would actually love on it. You actually rub on it, pet it, kiss it, and it's meant to represent the other person. You might anoint it with a love oil or come to me or something like that. Now, if it's for lust, don't anoint it because you're going to take it to bed with you for 3 nights and put it in your underwear. Actually tuck it into your underwear and sleep with it because that's where you're wanting the other person to think. You're not wanting them to think of you cerebrally. You're wanting them to. So for 3 nights in a row, sleep with it in your underwear. That's why some people might make dolls like this about this big. So that's why I don't anoint them with oils because you can have some irritation. But after the 3 nights, you can anoint it. And after that, you may turn it into a love doll. You may elevate the energy from lust to love if it begins to develop and further. And then actually, it can let it be both. So that's a way you can work with doll babies. And then we have love spell kit. Because people come in all the time, how do I do this? So it's like here's like an entire love spell in a bag. Sachet powders are a way, if you can't use something that's oily, you would like dust. People used to dust love letters or put perfume on them and things. And with these, you would actually do it. Some people get a new makeup brush just for using for their sachet powders. They'll keep a baneful one and a love one and a money one, not to mix them together. And you just dust it over cards and blow it off. But the point is, when they open a card, they touch it. So it's supposed to bring in more positive, loving feelings. I don't feel like I was able to cover so many things because there's so much to talk about with these. But one thing just remember is The ethics of love. Why are you casting a love spell? Are you in a place to attract the type of person you want to be with? Do you have the same things to offer them that you're asking them to have? Choose the right ingredients, whether it be for love, lust. Just research that. That is casting love spells.